Should you buy the brand new Fender Ultra Luxe Vintage series? It's John here from Play and Trade Guitars. I'm gonna make your life a lot easier. Let's plug them in and play them. I'll give you a full performance demo and I'll give you my honest, raw review. I'll remind you at the top to hit subscribe so you don't miss any new guitar reviews on the channel. And if you're thinking of shopping for an Ultra Luxe Vintage Strat or Tele, I'm telling you, payment plans with no interest and no credit card make it a whole lot easier. You can shop new gear using my link, you get fast free shipping, easy payment plans, and you help me make these videos. All right, without further ado, let's plug these guitars in. Which was my favorite? I'll tell you on the other side of the performance demos. Drop a comment and tell me your absolute favorite. what did you think? You stuck with me to the end, so I'm gonna give you my honest opinion to playing these 4 exquisite guitars. There's no doubt that they're expensive, but before I get there, let's talk about the way I rate a guitar or a series. I'm looking for overall playability, overall sound, and overall value. So before I tell you my absolute favorite, I'm going to speak about the series as a whole. You really will notice that flatter compound radius from 10 inches to 14 inches, that contoured heel, that satin feel, but you still have the nitrocellulose finish, and you have a lot of enhancements which I think take a vintage guitar like you'd see in the American Vintage 2 series and soup it up with modern playability. Now, from a playability standpoint, I have no issues. They were good weights, they were built perfectly, they were executed flawlessly. The satin feel is nice on the neck. You have stainless steel frets. You've even got, if you're on a dark stage, you've even got glow-in-the-dot fret markers, which makes playing in the dark a whole lot easier. So talk about playability points. Maybe the only thing I noticed was that the neck does have a slightly wider feel. The nut was coming in at 1.7 inches, and sometimes it does have a slightly wider feel. None of that really threw me, and I will compare the playability to one of my other favorite series in the higher end Fender space, which is American Vintage 2. Those are year-by-year recreations of iconic Fender guitars, and where these differ, of course, is they're much the same in terms of their vintage DNA, and they have the same pickups, but they have modern playability executed in the construction, along with a few other enhancements. It's nice to have those locking tuners, it's nice to have modern truss rod adjustment, compound radius, so on and so forth. All that is a big deal. You even ditch the 3-barrel saddle, for example, on the Tele and go with 6 modern style saddles or a modern 2-point trim on the Strat. From a modern convenience and playability standpoint, it is noticeably easier to play when you're looking at the Ultra Luxe Vintage series for sure. Now, some notes on sound. I am thrilled that they went with the same pickups, the pure vintage pickups that you would find in American Vintage 2. Here, I prefer to have, if we're going vintage, vintage-inspired single-coil pickups. I don't care for the noiseless in this application. I get the merits of the noiseless pickups in something like the Ultra series, which is going to be high-end performance tailored for a higher-end, higher-gain application. And for that, I think the Ultra series nails that. In fact, you can save some money if that's specifically what you're looking for. In fact, you can even get things like an ebony fretboard and some really cool modern finishes too. You can tell me if you like that solar flare green. But if we're going vintage guts with modern playability, they have executed perfectly on what I would draw up if I was envisioning kind of the perfect higher end series from Fender. The other thing I really dig, particularly on the Tele, is the S1 switch to put both those pickups in series. It makes for a full-flung effect of having like the whole guitar become one big humbucker. It's a higher output, more aggressive sound that I really love. And in terms of the typical Tele arsenal, I'd much prefer that mod than having something like coil splitting humbuckers in a Tele or something, which don't do the Tele single coil sound justice, nor do, in my opinion, the noiseless pickups. They don't do the Tele single coil thing justice. So here we have pure vintage, traditionally voiced pickups, but then we get this super powerful S1 switch to push us into series in this new sonic territory, which I really dig. On the Strat, it's effective as well because you get positions, additional 2 positions, positions 6 and 7, of kind of the Gilmore thing with the neck and the bridge on, which is very cool, or all 3 single coils on at the same time. So those are also modern enhancements that make a big deal, and I dig that from a sound standpoint. The pickups sound just as good as they do in the American Vintage 2 series, which I just rave about. So either of those 2 series I will recommend to you. Now, when we talk about value, there is without a doubt, we are seeing a more expensive guitar at just under $3,000. But here's the thing, every aspect of this is going to be competing with and feeling like a high-end boutique guitar or even a custom shop guitar from Fender. So it makes sense to me that they are pricing this on the higher end of the range. And you can watch my buyer's guides where I give you more affordable options if you're not interested in spending that kind of money. But the truth of the matter is, for a top shelf Fender, they delivered in all the right places and in all the right ways. And if you are buying one of these guitars, the payment plans make it super easy. When you shop using my link, you can see the guitar, the specific guitar that you're going to buy in this higher end category with a weight, serial number, pictures, and a payment plan. You can break it up, spread out your payments, no interest. It makes buying a high-end Fender that much easier. And you help me make these videos when you buy using my link, so I appreciate all of that. So you let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to talking to you. What did you think about the sounds? Will you buy one of these guitars or something else? Let me know. As I reflect overall on the series, here's the thing. They are expensive. But I feel like in my gut, I want one of these guitars. I would play one of these guitars on stage. I really want to add one to my collection. And since you stuck with me, I'm going to give you my absolute favorite. When it came to the Tele, my favorite was the 50s Telecaster with the maple neck, because it had all the hallmarks of a traditional Telecaster, but really then highlighted those modern enhancements, especially with the sonic boost of that S1 switch. But my overall absolute favorite, which surprised me a little bit because I really love Telecasters. If you know anything about me on this channel, I love Telecasters. But the standout star in these four, for my money and for my attention, I absolutely loved the 60s Stratocaster with that rosewood fretboard, and it just had that magic. I promise any of these guitars, when you open that case, they have the wow factor. Even that nitrocellulose finish with that tastefully done finish checking, they nailed this series. I want one. I want to play one on stage. Let me know what you think. Until next time, it's John for Playing Trade Guitars. Remember to hit subscribe so you can win a Gibson Les Paul. It's going to one of you very soon. We're closing in on 100,000 subscribers. And if you are going to buy an Ultra Luxe or anything else, click to buy that new gear using my link or scan this QR code and shop on your smartphone. Thank you so much for your support. Talk to you in the comments. Until next time, keep playing.